welcome to another episode of Focus On with myself, Alisa Mufikeng. We are still in Davos, Switzerland, and this is where the 55th annual meetings of the World Economic Forum have been taking place. Brand SA has been supporting South Africa in establishing and showcasing its economic reforms. Let's take a look. Ian, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you must have said this quite a number of times now, but I just want to hear from you what's high on the agenda as a representative from the business community here at Davos this year.
So for the community, I think the number one priority has been to get across the message. South Africa's open for business. We're in a great place right now. The country's got the best sort of sense of optimism we've had in a decade. And I think the South African team, one of the highlights of the week for me has been the way the SA delegation has shown up. I think there's a real sense of unity, a real sense of purpose. There's been a strong message around the upcoming presidency of the G20 and the B20. And I think it's just generally a really positive series of interactions with international counterparts.
And do you think the country has made a meaningful impression at this year's WEF compared to the other ones?
Probably the best I can remember. I mean, partly because obviously the president had an unprecedented opportunity to present in the main Congress Hall to the delegates of the main forum, and then also because the G20 event has galvanized quite a lot of interest, and a lot of third parties have organized events around it as well. So that sort of ramped things up the agenda. I think the Africa Collective guys have done a good job of continuing that narrative. That's something that's been going on for a few years, but we've managed to add to it, so it's been really good. Yeah.
And Ian, I'm sure you must have spent some time with some of the delegates coming from various places. What's the sentiment towards South Africa? What are global investors saying? Is there any interest?
There is, and it's not a comment I'm making now. It's not a World Economic Forum thing. If I cast my mind back to London just before the elections last year, it was terrible. You have conversations with investors, and no one really wanted to engage. They wanted to know what was going to happen with the elections. Very worried about the risks. Fast forward that to November last year in London, talking to investors, and it was a completely different attitude. People were wanting to engage, wanting to talk about opportunities, and you get the sense that's just continued, and actually the momentum's probably improved even further.
And as Mutual, how are you supporting the country in its preparation to take on the G20?
So we've mainly been involved in the background at this stage. We are helping to fund some things, and we are assisting with some of the work streams. But mostly at this stage it's really early days, so not a lot of concrete activity yet.
Just broadly, obviously South Africa being in South Africa, what's the key message that you're hoping to drive here?
I think the really important thing, not just for ABSA South Africa, but for South Africa, is that we're open for business. And when you look at the representation we have here, from government and from the various businesses, I think it says an awful lot. This is a grouping that meets every year with most of the global leadership here. So the presence that South Africa's got is really important. We want to also show that we're an advanced economy. We're a growing economy. And of course, on the African continent, the power of digital transformation is really key.
I want to touch on technology a little bit more, because this year's theme is collaboration in the intelligent age, and really at the heart of it is technology. How does that align with some of your core values?
I think, let me start by saying there are probably three things I'm picking up in Davos this year. The first is there's actually a lot of uncertainty in the world, geopolitical, technical, and you can see that coming through. The second is the advancing rate of technology. If you just look down this street, it's technology after technology after technology. The third thing, which I think is also really important, is that competition is increasing, which ultimately is good, in my view, for customers. Now, to your question on our values, for us it's really important that we use technology to enable our purpose at ABSA. So everything we do, we talk about being purpose-led in our deployment of technology. Because technology, you of course have to use in the interest of your customers and your business. So that's how we think about technology and all of this potential that it brings.
It is true that technology is advancing at a magnificent speed, but there's also a concern that South Africa, or rather Africa as a continent, is lagging behind. What are your thoughts about South Africa's standing and its competition? Do you think they are at a place where they're in an equal playing field with the rest of the world as far as transformative technology is concerned?
So I think about this maybe slightly differently than many people, because I actually think in South Africa in particular, in financial services, we've got one of the most innovative financial services markets anywhere in the world. You just look at the competition we have, and that of course is powered by technology. So I actually argue that within South Africa, we are quite advanced. So that's one of my first arguments. Now, to the point I made about competition, the good thing about technology nowadays is there are many countries that provide advanced technology, from the US, Europe, China. In Africa, we have the benefit of a very young population. Our average age is under 20, 1.4 billion people. And what does a young population bring with it? Opportunity, people with skills, if you give them that opportunity, and the adaptability to use technology. So, almost to the first question you asked me about why it was important for South Africa to be here, we need the investment clearly to help us grow, building more data centers, for example, in South Africa, which I know is happening. And then, of course, with our population and our demographic, I think very naturally we will see the expansion of technology. And the fact that there is competition from a pricing point of view also is to our advantage. So, yes, I do think there's a lot for us to do, but I also think we must dismiss this thought that we are so far behind many other parts of the world in terms of our adoption of technology.
And just to expand a little bit more on investments, what are some of the key other areas that you think could use more capital investments to advance the country?
Well, I think diversity is important. So, of course, I talk a lot about technology and investing in data centers and building skills, but, everything from our agriculture sector to manufacturing, any kind of services, not just financial services. I think for any country, it's really important the economy is diverse. And one of the great things about being in Davos this year with the contingent that's here is the fact that the message is very clearly South Africa is open for business and we're welcoming of inward investment.
And that's it for this episode of Focus On. From myself, Alisa Mufukeng, and the rest of the team, it's goodbye for now.